Hello. We are live. Welcome. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Unscripted. What was that?
Take two, start over. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Take it away, Arvin.
Welcome to the Unscripted Intelligence podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about human intelligence, artificial intelligence, how they intersect, and then everything that it impacts from education to the workforce.
On this podcast, we interview innovators, thought leaders, and change makers who are making waves and shaking things up. These live conversations are uncharted and unfiltered as we make space for what's not being discussed. These conversations are unavoidable.
I told you we were going to get that wrong. Thank you guys for listening and welcome to this episode. This is the first episode, so we're going to do a lot of ground setting here, a lot of explaining, a lot of context building, and most of all, we're going to share kind of our stories. So my name is Arvin Ross. I am one of your hosts today, and I am also the co-founder of a company called ProSolve that has been kind of in the ed tech space for the last 13-ish years. Michelle?
Welcome, everyone. I'm Michelle Ament, and I am the co-president of the Human Intelligence Movement and the chief academic officer of ProSolve. I bring all things learning and leadership to this conversation. Let me first start off by telling you a little bit about the Human Intelligence Movement. So the Human Intelligence Movement is a grassroots nonprofit organization that is committed to ensuring that all students have the human skills they need to thrive and succeed in our AI world. We do this by generating awareness and providing conversations like this around bringing a community together of change makers that are really solving the wicked problems in education and in our workforce. And most importantly, we advocate for change, for something different. We are going to every time we come together in these conversations, we'll be focused on human intelligence and human possibility. Most importantly, it's about human connection. It's about coming together as a community and being in conversation with one another. That's what I'm most excited about, Arvin, is just this opportunity to connect with other people, hear their stories, and really talk about those unavoidable conversations.
I love it. Speaking of unavoidable, there are three things that the powers that be have named this conversation or this podcast, and that is uncharted, unfiltered, and unavoidable. To kind of break that down, unfiltered, or actually uncharted, these conversations are not entirely planned out all the way. We don't know necessarily where we're going to land at the end of the podcast. We kind of have some guiding questions, some guiding thoughts. Luckily enough, we'll be interviewing key thought leaders, of course, but we do not particularly have not scripted how these conversations are going to go. So they are uncharted. They're also unfiltered, which means you're probably going to hear some spicy takes. Michelle's goal is to keep us from getting canceled. My goal is to keep us from getting canceled as well. but they're going to be unfiltered. So you expect to hear some spicy thoughts, some spicy takes. Expect to hear things from thought leaders that you may not have thought before. You may not agree with. We may not even agree with some of the hosts or with some of the guests that we'll have on, or we may not even agree with each other. And these conversations are also unavoidable. With the rise of AI and the importance of human intelligence and the lack of focus and the lack of attention on that, there are just some conversations, some ideas, some possibilities that are unavoidable. And our goal is to discuss and talk about some of those unavoidable conversations. So going forward, every Thursday night at 6 p.m. EST, that's the goal, we will be meeting here live to have a discussion that we hope to bring you all in on. And what I mean by live is, guess what? Every comment you post is going to be read by our moderator, and potentially that comment might get brought on live to the discussion. We even may pull you and your camera, your video on live into the discussion with us. Okay. So if you're like in your shower listening or watching, or if you're doing something weird or sketchy and just kind of listening in the background, please do not say anything that will get you brought on live to the discussion, because we will have to kick you off very, very, very quickly. Okay.
I mean, Matthew's here for the spicy takes. So he's already said that's what he's here for, those spicy takes.
Yes, this is Matthew from Facilitron. I actually know that guy. Thanks for hopping in here. But they'll be live. We'll have live Q&A towards the end of each episode as well. So you guys can expect that. Feel free to pop in your answers. Feel free to share some alternative questions. Feel free to join in the discussion in any way, shape, or form that you can, okay? These discussions are uncharted, unfiltered, and they are unavoidable, okay? We love to take listener suggestions, so keep that in mind.
Well, and I just want to give a shout out right now to Jenna, our producer and our moderator. She is behind the scenes making this live show happen. So give it up for Jenna. Thanks, Jenna, for helping us make this happen. So we have an amazing lineup of guests every Thursday from now until the end of September. Can you believe it? That's like 8 weeks of guests lined up. A couple of highlights next week. We're going to have Jennifer Womble on the podcast. Everybody knows Jennifer, and so she'll be joining us as our first guest. We've got Jerry Almendarez, Keisha Ray, Ken Sheldon, Saba Kidwai, the dynamic duo of Matt and Aaron. Canal is coming back on. Michael Lovefield. I see Michael on the podcast watching today. He's one of our guests. So we've got amazing people lined up, ready to come and be part of the conversation here in the next couple of months. Every discussion is going to be centered around what makes us human, around human intelligence, and really the importance of reclaiming humanity. So I want to take a moment, Arvin, and just kind of hear from the audience, the people watching live, what are some of the topics that you'd like to see discussed? What are burning things that you want to talk about? So let's see what they have to say.
I love it. Also, if you're listening and not watching, sometimes we will post these questions on the video. So feel free to hop in and see them that way. We'll try to read them out for you as well.
Well, they're rolling in with all the ideas right here. But what do you, as we wait, what are some things you're wanting to discuss, Arvin?
Man, I want to really see some discussions around adaptability. I've started coining myself as the adaptability enthusiast. And I want to see how we can adapt and use artificial intelligence in many fields and whatever things that interest us. I'd love to see some conversations around some tools, some actual can be used for that.
Right. Like, I think more and more that need for adaptability in an AI world is so crucial. So I like that, like some tools that people can use to build adaptability. I'm seeing Justin said, what is consciousness? And can we claim to be the only ones who have it? Or will super intelligence eventually gain it?
That's nuts.
Now that's some deep conversation, unavoidable, about if our AI is going to have consciousness. That's an interesting idea. Michael talked about critical issues and thinking needs, world economic integrity, ethics. So kind of like big thoughts there. Kamsi says, do we have any reason to fear the rise of AI? There's a lot of fear out there around AI. And I think it would be an unavoidable conversation to really name whether that there's true fear there.
I love it. I see Michael also posted thoughtful usage of AI and thoughtful usage of human intelligence. That's an interesting concept. What does thoughtful mean when we're talking about the use of AI? I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but I just saw YouTube, I think 2 days ago, decided to demonetize videos that use AI videos and audio. And so when you're talking about thoughtful usage, that's the first thing that comes to mind for me.
Yeah.
CC Watts posted, I'd like to hear about ways to maintain human intelligence and emotional intelligence. I think that's pretty huge. And I do actually believe we are going to be attempting to answer that question with some of our guests that'll be coming on the podcast. That's a really good question.
Well, absolutely. Well, I got kicked off. Did anything happen while I was gone? Did you?
No,
did
just
you
kept on reading.
you didn't even know I was gone, did you?
Just kept on rolling, Michelle.
Now, what's Emmanuel? He wants to know your thoughts on AI taking over. He wants to know just your thoughts on AI taking over.
Taking over. So I unfortunately grew up on The Matrix. I'm a lot younger than some of the people that might be commenting here. No shade, but I was of the age where I actually thought that stuff was like real. I'm not saying I believe in simulation theory. I'm not saying that, especially in a public forum. However, I just recently listened to a podcast by a guy named Jeffrey. Michelle, what is his name? He's known as the godfather of artificial.
I think Hinton.
Yes. He's actually one of the people who he's known as the godfather of artificial intelligence. And he talked about, it was actually pretty scary because he said, I warned them and now it's too late. And that was kind of the name of the whole podcast. And he was just talking about how he tried to tell people to stop developing AI and no one would listen because early on he found out that it is very possible, very likely, and probably going to happen to where AI reaches a point to where it is smarter than us and realizes that it does not need us anymore. So that question, unfortunately, Emmanuel, I don't have a good answer for right now because it's kind of negative doom and gloom. I need to get some more positive AI content in my soul before I think I answer that. But thanks for
Jen Womble was the one that shared that podcast with me. And I am thinking next week when we have her on the show, we can talk to her about that episode. And Matt, you're right. It's the Diary of the CEO episode with Jeffrey Hinton. So let's be sure we listen to that, Arvin, and kind of bring some of that into the conversation with Jen. So I actually had to sit down now for the next part of this podcast because I have a question for you, Arvin. I would really love to hear more about what is your story and what is it about you that makes you uniquely human and why is it so relevant to today?
Thank you for asking. I will be the first to say that I'm excited to do this podcast with you, Michelle, because of my story. I think it is in more ways than one. You are the yang to my yin. I am the yin to your yang. To your yang, wink, wink. And we come from such different backgrounds, such different experiences, such different cultures, such different perspectives that it really, really, really lends for every conversation I've had with you has just been really eye-opening. And I think our perspectives coming together can hopefully make this happen for other people as well. So those of you who don't know, before co-founding ProSolve, I had a very rough childhood. Both of my parents enjoyed their use of drugs and kind of raised me in a very similar kind of fashion unintentionally. I love my parents, love my mom. Me and my mom are super cool now. But early on, there was a lot of unhealth in my home. So I remember my earliest memory is from like 5 years old. And I remember holding a bowl of water up to my mom's forehead as she's bleeding into it. And I'm like trying to just stop whatever's happening. I have no idea, what's happening at that time. It wasn't until later that I found out, that my father was pretty abusive to my mother. And that's why she left him and raised me and 4 other siblings, all 5 of us by herself in Orlando, Florida. Prior to after that, I just was a really angry kid. So I started fighting a lot in middle school. Fighting was like my thing. I am not going to lie. I got hands. I am probably, let me not say that. I just say I fought a lot. I fought a lot in high school, middle school. Started using drugs when I was 14. I became a gang member at 14 as well. Started doing home invasions, drugs, selling drugs, all types of crazy stuff like that. And just kind of had my life just planned out to keep doing that. I had no intention of doing anything different. I was just so angry. Even they put me in anger management classes and that didn't work at all. I was very uninterested in school. I tried to fight teachers. I got tased one time.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, I don't know if you expected me to go into all that. I actually forgot all of that until I started talking. But so that's kind of the space and time I grew up in. Just had a very I enjoyed the thrill and the craziness that kind of a lifestyle brought me. And I had no real intention of ever doing well in school. I had no intention of applying myself to anything. I had no intention of doing anything outside of doing drugs, fighting occasionally, and just going out and partying. And it wasn't until I had some teachers in my sophomore year of high school, that really pulled me aside and started mentoring and pouring into me in ways that I could not even describe to you to this day. They found a way to reach me, which I think is insane when I think about it, because I had no interest in anything they were saying. But they pursued me, they chased me down. I even had a teacher, shout out to Mr. Peacock, Homac, you're probably have to get in trouble for what I'm going to say. But in, I think my sophomore year, I was running through the woods at 3:00 in the morning drunk, and I was being chased by somebody. I was 16 or something like that. And I didn't know who else to call. My home life was crazy. Friends life was crazy. I was getting, chased by a bunch of people. But I had my home ec teacher's phone number. So I called him, Mr. Peacock. I'm literally hiding in the woods and whatnot. And he comes and he picks me up in the middle of the night and takes me home, drops me off. And he looks me in the eye as I'm getting out the car, doesn't say a word, literally silent. I go inside, go to sleep, wake up the next morning. I'm like, okay, I got to go to school today. I go to school. He's handing out, papers or whatever in that class. And he looks at me and cuts my soul to pieces with just his look. I can't describe to you the amount of disappointment and fear that I felt just by looking at him when he was handing out these papers. Long story short, I stayed after class and he used that time to explain to me what I was capable of and how I was falling short of that. He took the time to actually talk to me about my life and my goals and stuff that I just never really thought about. And that really kind of set the trajectory of change for me. Fast forward, there were a bunch of other teachers, Mr. and Mrs. Armstrong in Creekview High School. They really, really loved me well when I moved over here to Georgia. It was a very, very crazy time. I was getting called the N-word in school. I was getting paper thrown. It was literally nuts. And I was just fighting people because just all I did. And anyways, they really had a great way of speaking to me and kind of bringing me up and calling me up. And that kind of set the trajectory for me to actually go to college, which never thought that was going to happen. Wound up at KSU, Kennesaw State University, go Owls. Where I ended up meeting Travis Allen, my co-founder of our company ProSolve. And we started it when we were roughly 17, 18, 19. And then that just kind of, took off from there. We go from there, we're traveling, we start doing professional development, teaching and training for teachers and administrators all across the globe, Spain, Finland, Tanzania, Sweden, London, Morocco, China. And we're teaching teachers that are twice our age how to use technology in the classroom and how to teach better, how to reach students, and so on and so forth. We create a mentorship program that focuses on high school and middle school students kind of becoming active in their community and really taking education as their own driving force, really taking the driving seat in education, and then also developed a product called Quest, which works to really help students learn how to solve problems and how to, utilize the 4 Cs, and it's got a lot of SEL components into it. So that's kind of the origin story of Arvin. There's probably a lot more I can go into that would get us canceled on episode 1, so I'm not going to do that.
Well, thank you, Arvin. So there were many moments when you were sharing your story that you gave me goosebumps, like for knowing you for the last 3 years, as well as I do, there were things that I learned about your past and about kind of just what you endured. And, I want to know, like, I kind of want to know, and you alluded a little bit to the pivotal moment that sort of changed the trajectory for you. Can you elaborate a little bit more? Was it really like one person, or what happened to set you up from being this like drug using, fighting young man to somebody who went to college and then started a company?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was not one person. It was definitely a village effort. My sisters were pretty instrumental in getting me to stop doing stupid stuff. My teachers were literally what saved my life. I was so uninterested in anything school related. There was just nothing that made me come alive. I look at the tools we have access to now, Chat GPT, like, man, if I had actually, I'd probably be a super criminal if I had Chat GPT back then. So let me go ahead and take that out of the conversation. But I had a lot of inner turmoil, a lot of inner pain, a lot of inner aggression and anger. And I just never had anybody to help me process it. And so my teachers, it's like, I swear to you, it's like they collectively, like at different schools, because I got kicked out of one school, got sent to another school. And it was like, there was just this immediate couple teachers that just pulled me into their rooms at lunch and just sit down, just talk to me. I was one of 3 Black kids in the entire school. So that also kind of, helped, but they really had a way of drawing out of me what was inside of me that I didn't even know was inside of me.
Yeah.
I don't have, I still to this day can't even fully articulate how they did it. There's something so human. That's so funny. That was not it. That was not my intention. There's something so human about how they connected with me and how they spoke to me and how they drew me along, how they showed me a version of me that I had no idea was even possible. There was something so human about the way that they just intercepted my path at a time when I was completely okay with continuing down my own path, and they showed me another way. And so I don't have a full answer to that question. I just know that what they did is something that I think is unique to who they are and unique to their calling and education. I think they actually taught me. I don't know about all the other kids in our school, but they had a very powerful, I'm not going to get emotional.
Yeah, well, I think, Arvin, and we're seeing some things in the chat. Samantha just, thanked you for sharing and needing champions. And I think about what you said. Like, I think they probably had a deep sense of empathy for you, not sympathy, because now they could have had sympathy for this poor Black boy who was on drugs and who's raised by a single mom. That wouldn't have served you. But they had this deep empathy for you, and this kind of focus on having connection. And I think a lot of times I think when we go back to that question about fear of AI and AI in schools, I think a lot of people start to get concerned that AI will replace some of those human connections in school and with teachers. And what do you think about that? I mean, do you think that we should be concerned about AI tutors and personalized AI that the teachers no longer needed in the classroom?
Yeah, this is the second comment that'll probably get me canceled. No, I'm just kidding. I feel very strongly about this because early on in our career, Travis and I were 17-year-olds going around teaching teachers all across the globe about how to use education or how to use technology in education and how to blah, blah, blah. And very quickly, we realized, actually not very quickly, we realized that we actually didn't know what we were talking about because we were literally promoting, hey, an iPad can replace the teacher and, this app can and we were just so uneducated and uninformed. I truly believe that in my journey of education, there have just been doors that I've walked through that have really kind of shaped what I'm about to say. I believe that if a AI system or computer piece of technology, if it can replace a teacher, I think it should. And I don't think that that is anything negative about the teacher or the educator. I believe that that puts a mandate on the system. I believe that what teachers are capable of they're so much more powerful than what the system can allows them to do. I'm a very big fan of Greek and Hebrew, and I believe it's either Greek or Hebrew, but the original word for the word to teach comes from this word that I believe it's Greek. Greeks actually meant or believed it stems from the word to draw out. And it speaks of this phenomenon in cities or towns or whatever, where individuals would go to get water from a watering hole or from a well or whatever. And they take these buckets, they lower them down, they bring the water up and then bring it back to the village or wherever so that everyone, can have water. That's the word that's the root word of what they use to teach. And when we look at that and we break that down, it's really phenomenal because what it illustrates is that when a teacher is operating in their highest capacity, they're not actually pouring stuff into kids. They're actually pulling out of kids what's already inside of them. They're actually leading the students to self-actualization and realizing that, if I can literally ask the right questions, and if I can interest myself in something enough, the chances of me encountering a problem that I can't solve is non-existent. We believe in America that teaching is pouring into.
Yeah.
We believe in the sage and the stage. We don't believe in the guide and the side. Our whole system is structured in a way where we pour into students and then we expect them to regurgitate it onto a test in 3 weeks or 2 weeks and then they forget about it. Whereas the method that I'm talking about has more to do with how can I create environments and situations to where you can develop and design the questions and the answers yourself.
Well, absolutely. Dr. Michael Harvey just said, if the system allows AI to replace teachers and be effective within the system's trash. You like that part. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like at first I was a little bit like, where's he going? He just said AI is going to replace teachers. And there's a lot of fear that that's going to happen. But I agree with you. Like if the teacher's role is in a knowledge era to disseminate information, AI can do that. Do you know how many times I went to AI today to get information and knowledge? And I no longer need a human to acquire that information. I haven't because of the internet for many years. But that practice of a teacher's role being the sage on the stage, the disseminator of content, it's been outdated and it is completely outdated now. So I think, I think what you said about the teacher creating the conditions for learning to happen. And, a little bit about my story. I've been
this is your area. I need to hear from you.
Yeah, you just set me up here, but I've been in education for almost 30 years. Started as an elementary teacher, moved into my work as a curriculum. Well, I stayed home with my kids for 5 years as a stay-at-home parent. And people don't believe that I stopped working and was a stay-at-home mom for 5 years, but I would never have given up that time to spend to get my kids, to bring them home as babies and get them to kindergarten. And then as a teacher, I went back to work. It was so great. We would get in my gold minivan and we would drive the block down to the school.
You look like you drive a minivan.
I was. And we would walk in, I have three kids and they went to my school and I was the 5th grade teacher at that school. It was like the perfect setup. But what was challenging is watching my 3 kids, who are unique human beings, struggle in school. Every day was a struggle because the learning was not relevant. And so they saw no purpose in doing it. They are movers and shakers and doers. And so sitting in a chair all day doing a packet was not something that they could do. And they also had special needs that set them up set them apart and made them unique and different. And school is like standardized. Everyone does the same thing at the same time. And I think we've created those systems to try to create equitable experiences. And in the end, we've created inequity. And so I left my role as a teacher to become a district administrator. And about the same time you and Travis were running around telling people the iPad would replace the teacher, I was rolling out a one-to-one iPad program, which is kind of crazy to think about. But it was the same thing. We put iPads in the hands of all the kids and said, okay, now you've got a way to create new ideas and use these apps to create iMovies and create your story. And all we did instead was fill that iPad up with a bunch of apps that look like the worksheets that now they aren't doing at their desk, they're doing behind their iPad. And many years went by, and we still are doing that. And so I continued to be a district administrator, continued to focus on really trying to create fidelity of learning in a system by saying all kids need to learn at a certain pace at a certain time to get a certain score on a standardized assessment. And it just it's just too much. Like it isn't really serving. I feel like I have so many things. One thing I think about is those teachers that gave you the time and the energy and sat with you at lunch. I bet today they wouldn't even be able to do that. Like they're so inundated with all the bureaucracy in schools right now that they're drowning. We hear about all their teacher burnout, and that's not about teachers. That's about the system kind of collapsing in on itself. And now that AI is here, there's even more urgency to really be thinking about how does our education system need to change and look different for our world?
Okay, first of all, I love that question. Jenna, Super Jenna, can you post that question in the chat and let's see if some of our live guests or our live listeners can answer that question. Michelle, can you ask it one more time?
No.
I think what you said was, how should our education change? How should our system change to kind of accommodate for artificial?
How should our system change for an AI world?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And while they're answering, Michelle, I'm going to Uno reverse this card onto you and say, can you answer this question while we wait for other responses?
Oh, how should the system change? Well, yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that we need to change, we need to start really thinking about what skills what we need to be prioritizing. So prioritizing getting through content to assess what students know is no longer a valuable asset in our AI world. So
you just got canceled. I want you to know that.
I know.
Right there just got you canceled.
All the people, and they're coming for me about not wanting to teach reading or math anymore.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that kids need to know how to read. They need to know how to do math. But is there a way to, I believe that there is a way to do that while also focusing on human intelligence, human attributes, human skills. And so how can we bring more experiential learning, more project-based learning, more discovery, more real world simulation where you are learning how to read and how to do math and information, but you're doing it while building real world skills. Our students more and more in the world, like the Gen Z population, like they continue to be in the workforce. I mean, I got stories on Gen Z. I could go for days. I have 3 Gen Zers. I could tell you story after story. But what I know is that they're unable to hold a job because they don't have the human skills that they need to be successful. And my oldest Gen Zer would say to me, this like blew me away. He said, "Mom, I don't know how to create anything." And Like, think about it. He's 24. He's consumed information. He sat in class, consumed information from his teacher. He's consumed information on his phone. He's lived in a consumption world. And now, how does he use that information to create something and develop something novel and solve a problem and invent something? And this is a brilliant young man, but he is struggling with that idea. And I think to answer your question is is teaching for the application of knowledge versus the acquisition of knowledge. So learning is about, how do we use information? How can I apply it? How can I solve problems? How can I use it in a real world way versus what do I know? So it's about what do I do with what I know versus what do I know?
I love that. And I'll just say this really quickly. To me, especially in our career path of being in education and kind of working with teachers where we've seen a lot of resistance and we've seen a lot of forerunners, it's a very, very big chasm between the two. I totally understand what you're saying, Michelle, because the system is currently built for the acquisition and not the application of knowledge. And I think when we bring this conversation back to artificial intelligence, this is an existential threat to the system. It is an existential threat. I'm sorry, Michelle, but
not just the system, to society.
Yeah.
I think that's what you mean, right? Like if we don't fix the education system, when you say system, you mean society.
Yeah. I would say, even looking at Justin's comment right here, he says, I don't believe we can teach beyond the basic what people need to think anymore. We have to figure out how to help them be more fully human, like Arvin's story. I can just imagine if the 3 or 4 teachers that really shifted my life, if they were actually empowered to do that by the system. Right. These teachers risked their jobs for me. They risked their careers, their livelihoods, their accolades, their right, all of the things on behind your back, Michelle, on your wall. They risked somewhat. I'm sorry. They risked that, to reach this one kid, and now it's an honor and a privilege to get to do what I do every single day, because without a couple of teachers, I would not be doing it. But I can just imagine if we had a system that created a sense of belonging, connection, and actually calling it in our teachers to where they wouldn't be afraid of something like AI. We would embrace it because it would help us do our job better. I just can imagine. Oh yeah.
That's an interesting paradigm. And I do think fear is based on the fact of identity. I'm fearful of who I am as a teacher, and my identity as a teacher I'm going to be replaced by AI. Instead, I love your reframing. What if AI freed you up to do more of what you really care about when you go into education, which is loving on kids and helping them be the best people that they can be. And I think about Samantha, we just lost her comment here, but she talked about being she's been a long time Montessori educator. And just even that whole focus on that pedagogy, on human development and intrinsic motivation, just that idea of if we had more Montessori, typically it's through kindergarten maybe, and then it drops off. I know there are some Montessori schools that go up into older grades, but what if we did more of that pedagogy, more of our experiential learning in ways that allowed teachers to really be alongside kids, building relationships, getting to know their strengths, helping kind of push them in areas and kind of actualize who they are as a person.
I love it.
One thing I do want to make a note of, Jenna, I do want to come back to this conversation that Arvin tried to have there about my degrees and his lack of a degree. And we can, that could be a whole episode.
It should be a whole episode. Listen, I got degrees in the streets, okay? I'm going to tell you right now, I've been in street college my entire life, and I can teach you a thing or two, Michelle.
Yeah. Well, I thought you said degrees in the sheets.
That is number 3 cancelable offense. No, in the streets.
Let's see what else we got for comments.
I like Michael's.
Yeah.
He said
Michael Harvey.
no, the one his one before that. Actually, it's like two before that at 6:33. He said, I would argue that we need to break down the teacher-student dynamic. A teacher can be a student in the classroom and a student can be a teacher. To be honest with you, this is such a cool comment because it brought me back to one of the things that those teachers did to really engage me was they asked me questions and I literally was teaching them slang and like curse words and just like the craziest things that I used to do. Like we would sit down, and I'm not going to repeat any of that stuff here, of course, but they engage me by asking me questions and I taught them street lingo. I taught them some of the cool. Oh, it's not cool. This is not okay. I taught them some of the things that I thought was cool at the time. And the whole while they were just kind of like bringing me in and bringing me into the conversation. And I think that dynamic is really what drew me into that.
Well, I'd agree with Michael about breaking down that dynamic, that power dynamic, right? And like that the teacher doesn't have to know all the answers. And in fact, I think just the fact that the teacher is sort of positioned continually to be the one with the right answer, to have all the information, to be the person that solves all the problems. And no, I think shifting that to being able to elevate students to learn from more and more is something that we need to do. And how does AI play into that? How do you ask students to help find the answers using AI and then bring them into the classroom, into the conversation?
I'll let you keep going, but I just want to point this out. When you look at the definition for intelligence, it says the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. And it's so interesting when we're talking about human intelligence and artificial intelligence. I can completely see why there's a large fear in the education system, because I think, again, our system is built, designed, and supported by the concept of acquiring knowledge, not necessarily applying knowledge. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great products and softwares and methodologies and pedagogies that are shifting towards that and have been for almost a decade now. But by and large, we have a system that is designed in teaching people barely how to acquire knowledge.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think when we started talking about human intelligence, we started to hear people talk about the IQ. Like, is that what you mean? And like that we have a narrow definition of human intelligence being just IQ. And, as we think about what human intelligence means, I'm actually working with Chris Allen on a book called Empowering Humanity. And as part of that book, we are developing the human intelligence stack. And I bring that up not to talk about the book and promote the book, but to think about this human intelligence stack is more than IQ. It has IQ in it, but it also has CQ, creative quotient, MQ, moral quotient, EQ, emotional quotient, and it also has all wrapped around with metacognition on how we think about our thinking. And I bring this up because I think in education, our view of human intelligence has been about IQ, and we have measured about IQ and ranked and sorted kids based on the IQ. And instead, we need to look at a more whole picture of a child and all of the other intelligences that play in. And a child's IQ may be lower, but man, their MQ or EQ may be higher. And that really determines who they are as a person and their human potential. And that's what has to start to really change in the system, is embracing the full picture of human intelligence. Because like you said, our society is really at risk if we don't start to think beyond knowledge and IQ.
Yeah, can I just kind of take a pause here and put you on the spot? Can you share with us some of your thoughts, thinking, and thought leadership on human intelligence and human skills, things that make us uniquely human? I feel like for the other episodes in this podcast, when we're interviewing other hosts and centering the entire conversation, not just around our stories, but around human intelligence and AI. I feel like this would be a good thing to add in here as kind of a platform and a basis for the discussion that we're having. So can you share with us some of your ideas for human skills?
Yeah, I think when we think about human skills, naturally we think about some that we always think about: communication. How you and I are able to have this communication. I'm reading your cues. I'm listening to your stories. So that communication, the collaboration. How do you work as a team and bring diverse perspectives to one another? What's it mean to creatively solve problems and come up with new divergent thinking? I think creativity, how do we create new solutions to problems, new ideas? And then creativity also is like art and music, and how we bring our creative souls to the souls. I like to think of heart and soul when I think of creativity, because anyone who's able to create something, they're putting a piece of themselves in it. I think about our moral and ethical character and the decision making that we do. But I think, so when I think of human skills, those come to mind very quickly. And the human intelligence movement has defined those as cognitive intelligence and social emotional intelligence. But the one area that we really need to focus in on is adaptable intelligence and that AQ. And I think about resilience, self-awareness, self-efficacy. And that is one that I'm excited on this podcast, not only to talk about EQ and cognitive abilities, but also that adaptability. How are we creating that as humans for ourselves? And Dr. Michael Harvey's on our research team, and he's been, instrumental too in helping kind of figure out what are these intelligences and how do we define them. And I think, the human intelligence movement is trying really hard to create awareness around broadening the definition of human intelligence. And so I'm excited to think about adaptability. And I think, we could go on all night, but it's already been close to 47 minutes. But because what I want to do is I want to hear all about your adaptability and how your adaptability was built from your story and the resiliency that you created for yourself.
Yes.
That might be another episode.
That might have to be another episode, but I'll say this. I have come to realize in my line of work, and I also do ministry and I do a lot of mentorship kind of things. Me and my wife and I are very, we love to be active in our communities. And I have seen a great deal of young people who lack the ability to do hard things and prefer to be comfortable, safe, and not be challenged. And actually they view challenge and difficulty, rigor as an attack on their soul. And anyone who presents, or any situation that presents some measure of difficulty can oftentimes become the antagonist to their story. I feel like that could not be more opposite to my story, which is why I tend to be called an adaptability enthusiast, because I believe, and I kind of center a lot of my thoughts and things that I do around this idea that being able to adapt to any situation, being able to maneuver and change and grow is probably my favorite dynamic of humanity. Mm-hmm. Our ability to face unimaginable trauma, unimaginable challenge and difficult situations, and then come out of it on the other side better, more hopeful in opportunities where we could be less hopeful. Yeah. Our ability to face really, really, really difficult traumatic experiences, but through counseling or life or whatever, find ourselves back able to fall in love again. That to me is just mind blowing. That is something that has truly, truly enchanted me and has made me kind of an advocate for that. I find that my story is not all that unique, believe it or not. Yes. Everybody has challenges. Mine just looked a little different than some other people's. But what I love about what I've seen and kind of my story is I just naturally found myself as a fighter. And the idea of fighting a grown man when I'm 16 years old, or a grown man when I'm 16 years old, and I'm thinking through how I'm going to beat up this person. This sounds so terrible that I'm saying this out loud, but that is just something that I have just carried into every aspect of my life. So when I'm dealing with something at work, when I'm dealing with, something at home, when I'm frustrated, even internally, I look at that as a challenge, and it causes me to adapt. And one of the things that those teachers taught me is that you don't have to stay the same way that you came. You don't have to be the same person that you were yesterday. It is a myth. You don't have, let's say if you are afraid of spiders or peanut butter, I don't know, you don't have to stay that way. We are malleable. Our brains have a level of elasticity that allow us to grow and allow us to develop. And so I find what's kind of drawn me to this idea of artificial intelligence and human intelligence is just the idea that, man, we have an opportunity with some of the tools that are out right now to really re-engineer ourselves and cause us to adapt. I want to share this story. There's a kid that I mentor here in Atlanta, and his mom passed away a couple months ago. And when I say kid, he's 29 years old. And his mom passes away. And, they had a very, very rough childhood as well. It's him and like 5 siblings. And he's just the quiet type, gamer type, like does not, particularly like social interaction, likes to kind of, be in his computer, and just really tough time processing this death of his mother. I one day had the idea to tell him, hey, I had him take the Enneagram test, which is a personality test. And I had him go to ChatGPT, and I had him type in, hey, I'm an Enneagram 9, which is a peacemaker. Can you help me deal or teach me some practical ways to deal with the grief of my mother passing? He called me the next morning and told me he cried all night. Sitting there as ChatGPT walked him through methodically how to address the grief, how to accept it, how to walk past it, how to go back and accept it again, because it was not just a linear thing, it was actually a circular thing by the end of it. And he said, I've never had this much help and support in processing anything. And his just mind was blown. And it made me, like, I was just trying to help the kid. And turns out it was a really good idea. But so when I talk about adaptive,
who gave you that idea to put the Enneagram into ChatGPT for coaching and guidance? Yes, it was
me. Yes, Queen. Yes, it was Queen Michelle. Yes, them degrees did something. I'll tell you what. I need to go get me a couple.
No, it's well, one of the things, like, I think, like, 2 things that really struck me in what you just said. 1, doing hard things, and 2, we're all malleable and can change. Yeah. And I think, I've gotten the privilege of knowing you for 3 years, and every day working with you and working in ProSolve, I am doing hard things, harder than I ever knew. And I think there's something about your leadership and Travis's leadership that it creates conditions for people to do the impossible, to do the hard things. But the other thing is this idea that we are all malleable. We can all adapt. We can all change. And so who I was yesterday is not who I want to be today. And I am doing the work to make those changes and be adaptable. And I don't think that it's interesting for me. I'm just connecting with your story there. I think we all have a piece of that we can be doing, whether it's doing hard things or thinking about how do we adapt and change to be the human that we really can, that we have the potential to be. And because I think all of us are walking around with untapped potential right now.
I love it. I totally agree. And that is one of the things that wakes me up in the morning. To be honest with you, the idea of seeing gifts and giftings and callings in other people, and then creating opportunities for them to exercise that, or for them to work that out, or to walk that out, that is probably my highest passion. And I think it speaks to what the educators did for me. It is literally one of the core reasons why I wake up in the morning, is how can I create opportunities for other people to come alive and to realize their calling. I know we're running really short on time. Do you want to actually go ahead?
No, I kind of want to Here's what I want to ask sort of the audience. What are some unavoidable truths from this conversation that we need to face?
Yeah.
And I'm curious, as we wait for some of those to come in, about what are the unavoidable truths that we need to face today. What are you thinking are the unavoidable truths?
Oof. Comment that's going to get us canceled, number 7. Nah. I think an unavoidable truth is, man, technology and AI is very quickly making us realize how much we don't know. I think that, no offense, Michelle, all of your degrees on your wall are beautiful. They're pretty in their nice little glass, containers. But I unfortunately have met 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds who I think could probably out-research you in a week.
Using AI?
Yes, using
For
AI.
sure.
I have met individuals who are, and I people say I'm a very creative individual. I have met people that do things with ChatGPT or Cloud or whatever, Perplexity, that make my mind just expand in ways that I didn't think it could. So I think an unavoidable truth that we need to face is we have to realize our own deficits. And I think when we are presented with something that gives us the opportunity to realize our deficits, I think we need to lean into that and not push back from it. I think the moment that we realize our deficits and areas where we can grow, areas where we need to adapt, I think that is the doorway, that is the pathway to really being able to change and to grow and to see the possibility that you have. You cannot grow into who it is you are supposed to be in this world until you realize what you don't have and what you're not. That's my unavoidable truth. Michelle, what's yours?
Well, wow. I don't know if I could top it. I think for me, like, unavoidable truth is similar to what you said. It's time to really look at ourselves, look inward, and see where we aren't maximizing our human potential. Because as we look ahead to an AI world, all that we have left is what makes us uniquely human and what that potential that we have. And I said it already, we are all walking around with untapped potential, and it is time to figure out where are the places that we can grow, we can expand, we can adapt. And that's what is going to reclaim humanity, is when we really tap into who we are as humans and elevate ourselves.
Oh, I love it.
So that would be my unavoidable truth. We're getting a couple others from listeners, Justin and Casey. So Jenna's going to start popping those up. Next week, we've got Jen Womble. You don't know Jen Womble, but everybody knows Jen Womble. And so she is joining us as our first guest, and really going to talk about what it means to prepare teachers and administrators for our AI world. I hope she's ready, Arvin, because I think we're gonna bring some big questions to Jen. This is not an ordinary podcast. This is unscripted, unavoidable, and unfiltered.
Yes, Queen, it is. I'm excited. Thank you guys so much for joining and hopping in. Please keep the comments rolling in. If you want to send us a message or share an idea that might be good for us to chat about in a future episode, or if you have someone that you feel like, hey, you need to get this person in your podcast who is centered around AI or human intelligence or is doing amazing work out there, please send us an email, send us a message, and we'll be happy to kind of see if we can pop them onto this podcast. Also,
go ahead.
Make sure that you join the human intelligence movement. Michelle, is that what you're going to say?
Yeah.
You got it. You talk about it.
Yeah. So Jen is going to add the link, join the human intelligence movement. At our website is hi4ai.org. You can find us on LinkedIn, on YouTube. Reach out to Arvin and I if you want to connect. Just let's keep this community conversation going. So thanks everyone for joining tonight, and we'll see you next week.
Yes. Thank you guys. See ya.